Alright, so this is the two parts of the rear brake mechanism of a Honda Jazz from 2010. Originally I thought this piston was staying seized on because there might have been some damage internally to this brake hose. Apparently not. But what you'll find is when you're trying to get this thing off, there's a metal clip out here. Don't take that off until you've broken this joint here. There's like a little bolt union which the brake pipe goes in, and if you take that metal clip off, this is all floating around, so you'll never get it undone, because rest assured that thing that screws in there will be rusted in solid. So I had to use a pair of sort of like vice grips just over this so I could actually hold it and get the leverage on that, because the spanner, I just knew it was going to round off the nut if I wasn't careful. So thankfully, with a bit of WD-40, a bit of persuasion, shall we say, and it came off okay. This end down here, this end has just got like a bolt that goes through there into the actual caliper. That was quite an easy one to undo. There's got to be careful. There's two washers, two copper washers, one top, one bottom, which seal that. Don't try and put it on without, otherwise you'll have fluid everywhere. Now in my instance, yes, the caliper was seizing up. Now I tried several times to free this up. I mean, I've actually taken the thing apart, that's why it's all down like that. But for those people who don't know what this thing does, what you've got is a piston there, which there's the end that faces the pad, and that's the end that goes in the actual piston itself. Let me zoom it out. It's starting to zoom in. I've got. So that's what you've got. So as you apply pressure on your brake pedal, the piston is forced out and pushes the pads in together like that, and the disc runs through the middle. That's the idea. It's pretty basic. But in there you have, let's see if I can get this a bit better, you've got a rubber seal on the outside. Now this thing takes a heck of a lot of a hammering. Obviously it's butchered because I butchered getting it out. It was complete, but it had holes in it. Now what the holes mean is that, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a thin layer of crud on the inside. So that means that the actual rust and other nasty elements were penetrating that. And the ultimate upshot of that is that in there, I don't know if you can see that it's all rusted around the end here. So yes, you could probably have cleaned up the inside and put a new seal kit with a new piston and put it together, but for the sake of an extra £20, $20 or whatever, it's easier just to buy another caliper and whack that on. The only thing with these calipers, when you get a replacement one, is it probably won't come with the handbrake plate, so you'll need to take the one off of here and put it on the new one. Now the reason why this is shiny here is that I bought one and the mechanism for the handbrake was different on mine to what it was for the one they supplied. It's not a big deal. This just basically unscrews and there's a washer under there, and with a bit of careful persuasion it comes off. But this is actually a mechanism which, when you put it, handbrake comes on, operates and actually pushes that piston forward, so you don't have to have too many clicks on the ratchet. That's all that does, so it's pretty basic. What I did find was that the bleed nipple on this one is much better than the one that came with the actual replacement. The one that was replaced is a bit closer, so when you put your bleeding tool over the top, there's not enough space for it to hold the clamp to hold it on, which was a pain in the butt. But it is what it is. We managed in the end to get a good seal on it. But in essence, when you the brake pipe, and I get that out of there. Well, I can't get it out of there. There we go. This thing goes in here like that, and as you can see, there's like two pins either side which hold that. So that screws in sort of like that. Once you do anything, if you put a new caliper on, you've got to bleed the brakes, otherwise you're getting air in the system, and air is compressible whereas fluid isn't. So you'll end up with a spongy brake pedal if you don't bleed the system out. So we got one of those cheap and suppose nasty, whatever you want to call it, brake bleeding kit's one-man operation, but it worked perfectly. Can't complain about that. Now I don't know if I can zoom in on this and it will see. There we go, look at that. You can see the crud in there. Now obviously the fluid I got out was black, so we know that things have been going downhill in there. Basically the piston wasn't releasing enough, so we were getting brake binding. Now with brake binding you've got two possibilities. One being your lovely cable hose here, because if this hose has got a restriction in it some or damage, you can get pressure building up in here, but it can't get out again. Put it that way around. So the way of telling that is, if you put the brake on and this wheel is solid, where you've got the brake thing, just crack that. If you crack that and you get a little spurt of fluid coming out and the wheel moves, then it's highly likely it's that. If however it doesn't rotate and there's not much fluid coming out of here, then it's highly likely that this unit here is got rust or crud in it. Now obviously I butchered this to get this out, so I'm not worried about how much has been butchered because I'm not going to use it again. But if you look carefully you can see this sort of line of crud along here, and that's a build-up of rust basically. I don't know if I can get that off of there. Oh, it will come off. Yeah, it certainly shouldn't have been in there. But either way, that's knackered. So if you're stripping one of these down, bear in mind you will also need, if I can get that in there, you'll see in here you've got a circlip. So you'll have to extract that to get this out. If you ain't got a pair of circlip pliers, you've got problems. You're not going to get anywhere. So there's a lot of faffing around because, as I say, there in the bottom of there, you've got the handbrake mechanism on the back of this. If you've got a front, so if you've got a front wheel caliper, it's the same principle. They've got these sort of sliders and the disc rotates in there, but you don't get this rubbish on the side. Basically you've just got a pipe coming in, bleed nipple, and a piston that pushes out and pulls. When it pushes on the disc, it pulls the other side and pulls it together, and that's how it works. It's very basic. Obviously more expensive, more modern car, you might have pistons either side. You might have 4 pistons, I don't know. But a Honda Jazz is cheap and cheerful, so you get a pretty basic thing. Oh, there we go, we did get it out. So that's where the brake fluid thing goes in. So there we go, one knackered piston. But that was just if anybody wanted to know what it actually looks like.